Sensei Cisco here for Sensei Martial Arts. Today we're going to take a look at moate, or turns in karate. Now the purpose of any turn would be to change your direction from facing from one point towards a new point. This could be as a reaction to having aggressors on multiple directions, or as a means of creating a throw by allowing your hip to connect with the opponent and then pull, tripping and tossing them across the room or down to the floor in front of you, whatever purpose you have in the moment. Depending on the stance that you're coming from, whether that be our siko-dachi, zenkutsu, nekoashi-dachi, or straight up chiizontai-dachi, the way you turn is going to change a little bit. However, there are two principles that will remain the same and kind of give you guidance throughout these actions. These two principles are our planted foot and our anchor foot. Your planted foot is the one that the majority of your weight is going to be placed on. For zenkutsu-dachi, for instance, this is going to be your front leg. For nekoashi-dachi, that would be your rear leg. For siko-dachi or chiizontai-dachi, it's split in the middle. The anchor foot, however, is going to be, well, we have one where our weight is. The anchor foot's going to be the one where the weight isn't. So nekoashi-dachi, that would be this front foot. We don't have much weight and allows us to move it and anchor to a new position. For zenkutsu, that would be our rear leg. Since our weight is on the front, our back leg can move around. I'll get into more detail on these and present them in this next section. So if you'd like to stick around, let's talk about moate and the basic stances that it comes from. First things first, chiizontai-dachi, just standing up tall. Now when we stand, we're going to have one foot out in front of the other, and yeah, that's about it. One foot is forward, one foot is back. We can extend this a little bit further to get into our sort of relaxed knee fighting position. Chiizontai, fighting. Chiizontai, fighting. They're very similar to each other in that regard. But the thing we want to keep in mind, regardless of which one we're using, are something that we like to call train tracks. The train tracks are that shoulder width distance that your feet have. Now here I have my feet in a yoi position. This is my shoulder width. These are also my train tracks. So if I draw a line straight ahead from my left toe, I'm going to follow that line to create my chiizontai or fighting stances. To turn from either of these, I'm simply going to cross a foot in front and twist. The twist comes from the balls of our feet. Whenever we're standing, no matter what stance it is, whether it be siko-dachi, zenkutsu-dachi, nekoashi-dachi, we're placing the majority of our weight on the balls of our feet. Now, nekoashi-dachi, of course, does put a little bit more to the heel, so you are using the whole foot for that big grip. But primarily, the balls of the feet are where we're going to place our weight. This allows our ankles to adjust and create an extra bit of balance and stability in our stances. What the ball of the foot also allows us to do is create the pivot that we need in a moate. Now, if you've watched any of our kicking videos, you'll know that a pivot comes from a chambered kick, say the square chamber, and then I turn on the toe to twist and create a side or round chamber. Then drawing it back and return so that my planted foot has the toes forward and the toes turn. We're going to use the same principle for all of our moates moving forward. Now the chiizontai-dachi, to get this turn, I'm going to take these train tracks that I have, and I'm going to imagine a third track out to my side, on the side of my back leg. So I have my left foot forward, my right foot back, they're on two tracks, and then just to the side of that right foot, I'm going to imagine another track. So that I can keep my chest forward, bring that lead foot all the way across to that new track, place my weight on the balls of my feet, and then slowly twist till both toes are facing the new direction. And this is your moate. So let's take a look at some of the other stances now. Siko-dachi. The siko-dachi has our weight set in the center. And to turn here, we're going to, very simple, we don't even need to move our feet for some of these. Look in line with one foot and turn our head and guard to the other. Turn and turn. So here we're looking at just redirecting our attention to that new space. If, however, we want to go complete 180, we're going to have to move one of our feet. So what we can do is set up on one side. We'll cross the foot in the back and then turn on the toes. So I've got my siko-dachi. I cross through the back. Now the reason I want the back is I have this little gap here behind my knee, so that my foot can shoot through in line with my toes. In this case, the balls of my feet are creating a line. I'm on a single train track. I'm going to look down the line to the next track and turn on the toes. Next is zenkutsu-dachi. Now for zenkutsu-dachi, our lead knee is pushed over the toe line. Back foot is straight with the toes turned out about 45 degrees. Our chest is pointed straight forward, squared up to the front toes. Now for the turn here, my lead foot is my planter. This one's got most of my weight, so it's going to remain in place. Instead, I'm going to use the back foot to re-anchor a new position before the turn. But keeping in mind the train tracks. Here my feet are about shoulder width apart. I've got these two train tracks. And just like the chiizontai, I'm going to look, instead of along the line of the back foot, I'm going to look along the outside line of the lead foot. So the new track is always going to be offset from the planter foot. So I know I have a track over here on the side of my planted foot. I'll bring my anchor over to that line, but I'm going to keep it back where it was in the rear. So it's going to follow another grid line along the back wall. So I can follow that back line in line with the forward train track, then turn on the toes, siko-dachi to zenkutsu, and now I'm pointing in the new direction. Next up, nekoashi-dachi, or cat stance. Here my train tracks are still shoulder width apart. However, I'm going to take the back heel, turn it in about 45 degrees, so that I can sit my weight onto the back toes. My shoulders are about 45 degrees, pointed in the same direction as those rear toes. The moate here is again going to offset from my planted foot. Planted being where my weight is, so that's going to be my right leg. And I shoot over to the train track, similar as I had with zenkutsu, using the now front anchor foot to reach across in a straight line. Again, I'm drawing a line across the front of my body. Think of if you had your toes up against a wall. Run your toes along that wall until they've reached the opposite corner where the new train track is. From there, we'll shift our weight to that new foot and twist to set our weight or keep our weight on that point. Now let's take a look at how we can combine a couple of different stances together and shift from one position to another. The first we'll take a look at is our chiizontai-dachi to zenkutsu-dachi, turning around from a walking stance into a zenkutsu stance. Now this does show up very early on in our training in the form of siko-dachi. In fact, it is the third step in that kata. After we step out for a low block, coming up with a punch, third step, we're going to step behind. So we already have our chiizontai-dachi. Now for this, I'm just going to put my hands on the hips, so we're focusing more on the feet today. And since I'm stepping back behind me, I'm going to have to decide which is my anchor and which is my planter. Since the siko-dachi kata tells us to move the front leg back, that means this is going to be our anchor, because my weight is going to come off that foot for a moment. Not necessarily leave the ground, but I'm not putting weight. I'm not pushing forward onto it. This means my left foot is my planter. So I'm going to offset from the planter and see the train track on this side. My anchor will draw across and find that new line. Now, zenkutsu, I know, is very long, so I don't want to step short. I want a long reach, so I'm going to bend my planter knee almost to the point of a zenkutsu. My reaching anchor foot is going to go knee straight. This way I know the length of this leg will give me a good depth for my zenkutsu. I can then drop my siko-dachi, turning of course on the balls of our feet, and then continue the turn on the ball of the foot till I have a full zenkutsu facing this new direction. Let's watch that one more time. I've got my chiizontai-dachi. I put my weight on my planter foot. Anchor foot draws behind, reaching back to the new train track line. And then I'm going to lower my weight so I get a full reach for my zenkutsu to rest long. Last one, let's take a look at how chiizontai-dachi can become nekoashi-dachi. Standing tall and dropping short in our turn. Similar to the zenkutsu drop we did a moment ago. The only difference here is going to be the depth, how far we reach with our anchor foot. So, the nekoashi-dachi will again start in chiizontai. I can cross and back to find that new train track. However, I'm going to keep my knees touching together. This way I can shift my weight, but keep it on the planter foot. Because whereas zenkutsu, I'm going to push to the front, neko, I'm going to keep to the back. This means as soon as I go to turn, I have my planter foot in this new direction. My planter foot is going to be the rear foot. So I'll maintain my weight there. The anchor foot allows me to create a control and draw. In order for us to turn our bodies, we need 2 points that can pull or push against each other to create this spin. So this is one version to step behind. However, through our katas, you will find that there are other times where we gotta cross in front. Pinan shodan is an excellent example of this. After we throw our maigiri, we're up in a chiizontai style stance before we draw a cross and then drop to our nekoashi-dachi. So in this scenario, again, maintaining my right foot front for the purpose of the day, make sure you practice on both sides, of course. Don't only practice with right foot lead. Switch to the left so that you are a little ambidextrous in any of your presentations. You never know when you're going to need this. What I'm going to do is take my lead foot, that anchor, and draw it across. Now this is very much like our chiizontai-dachi moate. I'm going to draw across to that new train track. Only now, because I'm about to turn back behind, I know my right foot, my lead foot, is about to be in the rear. So I'm going to push my weight towards that new planter foot, switching the anchor to a planter. Now my old anchor, or my old planter, is now the anchor. And I can twist to switch my feet. And there we have it. A series of different moates as presented through our differing stances. Now feel free to experiment and play with these. How can we create siko-dachis and zenkutsus to play off each other? Can we go from a nekoashi-dachi into a zenkutsu? How would that work? Experiment and make sure that no matter what you do, the priority is balance and control. As long as we have the balance and control, what you're doing is almost entirely up to you, so long as it works. If it doesn't work, don't keep doing it. And of course, speak with your coaches, your senseis, about whether or not this idea that you have is applicable, if it's something that you should be doing. But ultimately, karate should be about enjoyment an expression of the human body. And if you're drilling it to the point where it's annoying or not interesting, maybe there's something that you need to change in your training, the way that you approach your training. But until next time, I hope this has been a help to you. Make sure to add these exercises to your practice and your presentations for kata, bunkai, kumite, and everything else you do. Until next time, this has been Sensei Cisco with Sensei Martial Arts, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.